I don't know how old your kids are. I have a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
And she's, I'm not just saying this because she's mine, but she has her mommy's brain and she's really smart.
Yeah.
And we can have conversations. Like we're watching Walking Dead right now.
Right. Yeah.
And so I find myself like really trying to explain to them like, okay, well, this person is struggling. I know you don't necessarily know what homeless means. Here's what it means. This person found themselves on the street.
Right.
It could be for a variety of reasons. It could be because they didn't have anyone to fall back on, and then they didn't have enough money and they got kicked out of their home. Or it could be that they made some awful decisions. They, maybe got addicted to drugs and different things.
Yeah.
So do you think like that? What's the approach there? Do you be honest with your kids? I try to explain it to her in a way that doesn't make her look down on them, but also be aware of what happens when you screw up.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Man. I'm completely honest with my kids. I have older kids too, and who are adults now. And, but my younger kids, and even with my older kids, I've always been honest with this stuff, just because they're going to be exposed to it at some point, and I want them to be aware of what causes it and, what they can do to prevent it, so, it's a generational thing though, and it's all dependent on the environment that they grow up in, I feel, but that's not for everybody. Some people get thrown into this stuff and, in a whim, they don't know, what they've gotten into and before it's too late. So, I hope every day that doesn't happen to my kids. And I'm here to kind of guide them through that and, make them aware of what these drugs are and, what this looks like. You may be 13 years old, but this is what this looks like. Don't touch it. The vape pens, that's a big thing in school now. There's kids every day. Not every day, but I hear about it, at least a couple times a week, and they're smoking these vape pens and they're tripping out at school. These things are coming. Most of them are coming out of a dispensary, and they're high quality THC, and these kids don't know how. They're children, man. They don't know how to take it, and they're flipping out. And I know there's been a lot of people talk about vape pens in the school that have fentanyl in them and stuff like that. Most often that's not the case. Most often it's really THC, and it's too strong.
Yeah.
And these kids are greening out.
So. Oh yeah. Some of them will put you on Pluto, son.
Oh man, it's too much. No thanks.
Yeah. And well, at that too, I mean, the non-THC vapes, I mean, you say what you want. They're marketing these to kids. I mean, you got a Fruity Pebbles flavored vape.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Who's that marketed to?
Yeah. Not for me. No thanks.
I'm hoping that my daughter, for me, for some reason, when I was around people doing what I consider hard drugs is when someone starts crushing something up and putting stuff up their nose. Whenever I was around that, it would be the weirdest feeling. I just felt like I was watching someone commit suicide.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like for me, it's I was around a lot of growing up, teenager, dad was a biker, biker parties, just fun stuff like that. And so I was around a lot of stuff, and I never got into like really hard stuff. I tried and dabbled in things just as a teenager, just to be part of it. But I got on a really bad LSD trip when I was 18 years old, and it changed everything for me. And from that point forward, I swore off of any type of drug and anything hard. And that's about the time that the pills came in, and all of my friends went on to that, and I was too scared to go into it. And now they're dead, and LSD saved my life. So
that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember in high school, when people started crushing up pills in class, and I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, we were just like, we're still kids.
Yeah.
And the life experience was so drastically different, I guess. And, they would do stuff like that. And then those people now, some of them are in horrendous shape. I'm talking they aged 3 years to one.
Every day, man. I had a friend, I'll vividly remember, we were hanging out with some adults, probably 17 years old. They were in 30s or something, and they pulled out a plate with some lines on it. And my friend did it. I didn't. At this point, I was, this was after the LSD, so it would have been 18. And he ended up getting, really addicted to pills because of that day. That was his day. And lost, some stuff in his nasal cavity, and you can't even understand him now.
Oh, man.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, 4.0 GPA, really good, environment that he lived in. But it was just that one day around the wrong people that put him on a path that he couldn't get off of. So it's crazy.
Yeah. I think sometimes it does boil down to like that one decision, and sometimes it's a multitude of bad decisions and negativity, but I mean, it's do not mess with it. If you're listening and thinking about it,
say no to drugs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, call us nerds or whatever, but it's not nothing good.
All
right. So where can people find you or find the forum? What can they do to get involved with their community? And it's specifically like you mentioned, like it can be other communities too, but it's really became this Southern West Virginia.
Yeah, it's really focused on Southern West Virginia at this point. And, there are tons of resources out there. You can find them on Sleazy News. We post it, pin it, whatever. Especially like the warming centers and stuff like that, the big thing here now, there's not a lot of property for people to get into. That's why we have a lot of homeless people, because people are afraid to rent property to people that, don't have a very good history. So hopefully we can come up with, there's a solution to that,
Dude, have you seen what rent is now?
It's crazy. It's insane, man. Like, look, I have a rental that I rent to my kids, and I'm pretty good with it for them. But I try to explain. They think it's too high, and I'm like, look at the houses around you, and find out what there's a few houses on that street that's being rented, and you've got a deal. So
we had a townhouse. I think it was $1,900 a month or something like. I'm like,
dude,
how does we've been very lucky to have a good life, good careers, all that stuff, and thankfully we could afford it. But I was just thinking, like, if I was working at Walmart still or McDonald's, because I had like entry level positions, how would I even live?
You couldn't, man.
There's no way.
Like, there's people working at Walmart now making $900 every 2 weeks. How do you live on $1,800 a month? I couldn't. But I look back, 15 years ago, I was making $8.75 an hour and living in a small $600 a month house, and made it. But lucky enough to have been able to live in a time that was, I could live in something, with that type of.
Yeah, well, I remember if I had $100 saved, I was like, yes.
Yeah, I never had money saved, man. I lived the struggle for a long time. Yeah. And it's just, most of it's my own doing, but I got out of it.
Oh, yeah. And I wonder too, like, okay, if I make my daughter's life too comfortable, is that going to mess her up as an adult? Is she going to be able to pay her car payment?
Yeah.
How do we juggle that?
Yeah.
Because basically, I had a great family on my mom's side. There were good people on my dad's side too, but my dad went out of the picture when I was about 9, and I think, really not having a choice than to make it helped me.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering, I'm like, of course I want my daughter to have a good life, but at the same time, is she gonna ask me to pay her car payment when she's 25?
How do you set them up to succeed? That's a big reason why I did what, with the rental for my kids, to kind of give them a chance to get through college, but at the same time learn how to juggle those finances and know, a little bit of the struggle. But it's definitely the more money you make, the more you want to spoil your child. You know, that's the way I feel about it. But, and there has to be that, you know, that medium that you don't.
Yeah, let's have 38 Christmases a year. This is awesome.
Yeah, man.
It's St. Patrick's Day. Let's get her a
let's have a party. Why not? Let's
something from the Leprechaun.
Yeah. That's so silly to me. Like, people like Easter. I'm seeing people post Easter pictures of presents. Why are we giving?
I know,
presents,
dude. Man? I'm guilty. I'm telling you. I'm trying to not do it.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, it's, you know, it's going to make her day. But at the same time, what is she going to do when she realizes, like, oh, you mean I don't get 20 Christmases a year?
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually have, like, a power bill is $700 in the winter.
Yeah, man. Like, what is this?
Yeah.
That's like the trunk or treats. I won't take my kids to those, man, because I feel like it takes away from Halloween.
The whole thing.
Yeah. I want my kids to experience that one night dressing up and just seeing other kids dressed up and going house to house, but kind of defeats the purpose if you're doing 15 different trunk or treats. And you know, they've got 17 pounds of candy at home. So
we should set up a trunk or treat on the rail trail this year.
Let's do it. I like it. That's a good idea.
I think we need a friendlier face on it.
Yeah, it would just be me, but just chilling, waiting to give out candy to the homeless, I guess. Yeah.
Oh man.
Good stuff.